You are tuned to the Nighttime Podcast, focusing on the fringe of Atlantic Canada. Mysteries, crime, the paranormal, and the weird. All under the soft glow of the moon. Welcome. Now, here is your host, Jordan Bonaparte.
Grimerica.
It's coming across that way because I don't consider myself an expert or like a researcher or any of these things. I consider myself more as a passionate observer.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We are going to be chatting with Jordan Bonaparte a little bit later. That was a fun one. But first, as always, Graham, why am I always the oldest guy at the rave Dunlop? How's it going, buddy? You excited?
I knew you'd have to mention something about that. You just love that I'm 10 years older than you, eh?
11.
Yeah, you see you're counting, aren't you? You're like, I'm not going to want to be that guy's age. It's not a rave.
It's not a rave?
It's not a rave.
What's the website?
Astral Harvest.
.com?
Yeah.
astralharvest.com. So anyone at home can follow along if they like.
No, but there's a bunch of workshops and art. It's like a mini Burning Man in a way. But I don't really know because I've never been there. I don't think I've ever really been to a festival. So it should be pretty cool, actually.
From what I'm looking at, it looks pretty ravey.
It's a family thing. You're allowed to bring kids and stuff like that.
It does not look like a family thing either.
No, it is. It is.
I see. I get that you're saying that. I don't think you're lying to me on purpose.
Look at the art workshops, the conferences. There's a whole bunch of conferences and workshops.
It's all, what's it called, musicians, eh?
No, it's not. There's quite a variety of them as well. It's not just like a EDM music festival. I think it's more than that.
There's like fucking 70 bands.
I know. Crazy, eh?
One's called Zack Attack.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool.
Looks like a rave.
So what if it was? I would like to go if it was too. So
is there an about? I'm going to see if there's an about. Nothing.
So anyways, we got Jordan Bonaparte coming up. He's from back east in Halifax, I think. Or is it Nova Halifax? Yeah. And he's got a nighttime podcast. It's his podcast, it's called. It's pretty cool. About true crime and strange stuff. He's got a great sort of interview style and really good concept. It's a little bit different.
Yeah, it was fun too. He's fun. He was a fun guest.
Yeah, fun guy.
He's a fun guy.
You were going to say that, weren't you?
He's a fun guy. Like a mushroom?
Speaking of fun guy, you're going to a rave this weekend with me?
No. Nope. Do report back, though.
I will.
Do report back. You should do some periscoping.
I know. I was thinking of it. How do I do that? Just go into Twitter and do it?
No. You stay out of the Twitter.
What?
You're out.
No, really.
You can Instagram the ordeal.
Well, I will do that.
There you go.
But how do I periscope? If I go on Twitter, I could do it through that?
You don't periscope. That's the thing.
I'll figure it out.
Oh, I'm changing the password.
Step on your toes. You'd be like, who's this? What's going on? Why am I getting all these weird tweets?
I'm changing the password. That's it.
So how's it going with your little new, you're all excited about something?
My medical marijuana card?
Yeah.
I got a prescription.
And being able to buy pot through the government?
Yeah, I got my prescription last week.
Congratulations.
It's not through the government. It's through private enterprise.
Well, it's blessed by the government.
Blessed by the government. Endorsed, paid. My appointment was paid for by the government.
There you go.
So that helped.
And the standards are held up by the government, aren't they?
Well, I don't know about that. But the standards are a lot higher than street weed for sure.
So you're excited about this because you have a choice now. Like you have basically a menu you can choose from.
Go
like
through a menu.
Like Amsterdam and the
when
cafe.
It shows up, it says the exact THC content, the exact CBD content, and a little flavor profile.
A flavor profile?
Yeah. And I can,
what is it? Tell me, give me an example of
let's see.
Like hints of cherry and
let's see what we got for the White Widow.
Is it pretty much like a wine tasting?
So you're talking everything from 10% right up to 35% THC.
Is that the maximum THC you can get?
I'd imagine you can get more.
So what
I
would
don't know
be
why
like?
you'd
What would
want
be
to.
something like a 1980s like Black Afghani or something like that, or
Probably
like
like
or like Maui Wowie, something like 8%?
10. I don't know. I've never had Maui Wowie. I didn't start smoking dope till the 90s. Where I thought I had a picture of a bag.
I don't partake in that anymore. Just to be clear, we're both not a couple of stoners. Just
It comes in a child-safe bag. Medicine. It's medicine.
Oh, medicine. That's what you're calling it?
Here it is. White Widow, 19.7% THC, 0.1% CBD, dried marijuana hybrid. Flavor profile, earthy, piquant, woody. One of the world's most famous strains, this cross between a Brazilian sativa landrace and an Indian indica is known to produce a powerful euphoria and energy. This strain may be beneficial for the treatment of pain, stress, insomnia, and fatigue. Seems like a bit of a fucking oxymoron to treat insomnia and fatigue, but
You're doing it for the stress, to reduce the stress.
the stress.
So where does your symptoms fit into that little
my actual
medicinal profile?
My actual prescription was for insomnia, sciatica, and back pain.
Did you feel bad lying to the
2 grams
doctor
a
about
day.
your insomnia?
No, she don't care, man. She's an old hippie doing God's work.
Maybe I'll see her at the Astral Harvest.
She's
Actually, what's her name? She's probably going.
Dr. Mason.
Okay.
I'm gonna
You should
see.
have her on the show.
She's busy writing prescriptions, man. She's just pumping people through there. Bam, bam, bam. 2 grams, so I get 60 grams a month.
No, I'm happy for you. I really do think it's beneficial.
And $8 a gram.
Just not for me.
across the board. So let's see. From my one supplier, Aurora.
So it's cheaper and better quality?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's about the same price, better quality.
So is this compared to how they get it in the States then?
It's
Like,
1 day
is it
delivery.
1 day delivery.
And this is Alberta based. So we got Three Sisters Dairy Queen.
3 Sisters?
Three Sisters Dairy Queen. It's a nice sativa, 23%er. Grape LA, number 1. Indica. Borealis blend, a sativa and an indica. I heard house blends are coming too. We got some sour diesel, some Odin 3 sour diesel, some peachy strawberry cheesecake, some Sentinel Canatonic, Stokes Quirkle, 28%, Warwick 2, Headband. Yeah.
Those are all the types of that you
Strains.
can order from?
Yeah.
Now, a strain is from a type of plant, right?
It's like a strain of.
I thought that was a type of strain that you're.
Well, it's
on,
like crossbreeding different. It's like more like a family, I guess. Different families.
Okay. So how does that compare to the States and how they do it?
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Well, in the States, you can have, like, here you can have dispensaries, so it's all done online.
Right.
So, like, I just go online and order it, it gets delivered the next day.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Hey?
And then for 3 months, I have to stick with one supplier, and then in 3 months, I'm allowed to register half my prescription, so I'll be able to get 30 grams a month from Aurora and 30 grams a month from Tilray. So I'll have access to another fucking dozen strains.
This is what I don't understand.
So I'm going to have a little cabinet in my...
Cabinet?
A little cabinet.
And you're going to open
And
it?
it's going to have... and it's going to have a bunch of drawers that pull out.
That's a shout out. That's a shout out to Ponce. I finally got you on that one.
With a little...
Opener.
I've been smoking that White Widow. With some little labels on it. And I'll have all my different percentages and all my different strains.
Did it come with labels for your cabinets?
Yeah. No,
Cabinets?
it comes with a label and the exact.
Does it come with extra labels for you to do your little arts and crafts?
I'll buy a label maker. And a nice cabinet. So
to open.
To open. And when people come over, I'll be able to treat them to whatever experience they may possess. I figure I'll have access to in 6 months, I should have about small amounts of about 25 different strains.
This is what I
Some will be fully CBD and won't even get you stoned, but they'll get rid of your headache.
This is what I don't get.
It's medicine, bro.
We used to split like a gram between three of us when I used to smoke it way back when. Now, how can you possibly like take 2 grams a day? Your prescription's for 60 grams? Like, isn't that a lot? Like, I mean, like if you rolled a gram into a joint, that's a huge joint.
Yeah.
Really? Is it that? Wow.
It's not that. I don't know. Maybe it's more leafy. Back in the day, you guys were smoking more leaf, I think. Maybe that shit's lighter. I don't know. I smoke about a gram. I smoke about a gram a day. Give or take. Some days more, sometimes less.
Your personal habits like that into that level of detail if you don't want.
I don't drink any alcohol ever. Special occasions.
Except last Halloween when you left early and then destroyed the studio.
Yeah, I think that's why. Actually, I got drunk
a couple weeks ago.
About a month and a half ago.
Yeah.
That fucking was a terrible experience too. Well, I didn't do anything stupid, but I felt terrible for about 3 days after.
I could see how you'd want a little cabinet full of different. I mean, it's just like when you like wine, right? You like different types of wine and all that. I mean, right on, buddy. Good. Well, you'll have to show me one day when you get it all set up.
I'm supposed to get my confirmation next week.
Nice.
And then I will order.
So I got a little bit of a weather modification segment, and I got a kind of a synchronicity from or we can skip that and do it next show if you want.
What do you got?
I got a synchronicity from a listener.
From Ponds?
No.
How about...
Graham is an all-believer.
No. You're supposed to play the other one.
We played that one last week.
Can you play it again at the end? No. People are specifically asking for the Kate Bush one. So.
I've got tons of feedback that says they just love that jingle. They actually want me to let it play out a bit. So
No.
They like the music.
This is about geoengineering.
Okay.
So you're okay if I do a quick segment then? So
Death dumps, otherwise known as chemical trails.
See, they've got it in there too.
That's the
What?
That's the problem too, is the chemtrail thing is in there as well.
Chemtrail.
Let's call it geoengineering. That's the proper term.
That's the problem.
Because I'm not saying that, they're out there.
Chemtrails.
I'm not partaking in the extreme part of this conspiracy. I'm sticking with the patents and the projects and the facts and the government reports.
I know. That's why it's so boring.
Some people like it.
I know.
Okay,
it's
so
a fucking anomaly to me. That's why I'm willing to sit.
Okay, just listen.
Sit here and trudge through it.
Just listen to these
phone.
patents here.
Graham has to take my phone away during the weather modification segments.
So I was reading from the 1978 Weather Modification Programs, Problems, Policy, and Potential from the U.S. government. And I took a break from that because I'm reading some more, sort of getting into details of some of the projects and then some of the patents. So I'm going to read from a list of patents because this just absolutely fascinates me. So this is all in trying to better understand the actual weather modification and geoengineering that's already going on around the planet. So, and the scientists experimentation. Well, no, and actual programs like doing stuff. It's not all
the thing is, like, the science
now.
behind making it rain isn't that hard, man. Is there really anything wrong with it?
It's not just about making it rain. It could be stopping it from raining. It could be storm retention or storm.
How could you stop it from raining? I guess you just have to
disperse the clouds. I mean, that's what Kate Bush's like cloud buster was. It busted up the clouds, right? William Reich, his Oregon Energy was supposed to do that.
Alleged.
You know, listening to Coast to Coast in the 90s or the 2000s, it was a drought and he had everybody focus on rain and it rained the next day. And I'm not saying
the rain sticks made it rain in Alberta.
Yeah. We got a rain stick here somewhere, don't we?
Yeah, it's rained
Don't
enough.
use it. The festival's coming up.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want you sitting in the studio shaking the rain stick on me.
Yeah, I will be live for 3 hours on Saturday and Sunday. Rain stick. So a little Tibetan bowl in there.
So the point is that they're talking about, geoengineering to stop global warming or whatever. And some people think that they've been doing this for a long time anyways. Now, what the motivation is, I don't know. And what they're actually doing, I can't say. But reading this list of patents is pretty informing. So in 1960...
Would you care to speculate?
Maybe actually, I was on Adam's show recently speculating on...
I heard you speculating on all sorts of things.
Did you? You didn't listen to it.
I listened to about 10 minutes.
That's pretty good. It's more than you listened to me in our own studio.
Yeah, I usually listen to the whole thing.
So,
the guest bugged me.
yeah, speculating on that. Well, I don't know. It could be both ways. It could be that they're trying to stop global warming. The intentions could be great. They're like, we have the technology to do this. Let's get up there. We know the planet's supposed to be warming. Let's get up there and stop it. Or it could be the opposite. It could be they're trying to induce global warming as a controlled, as something to use to control the population a little bit more.
Or it could be neither.
Or it could be
neither.
Local weather modification initiatives, right? Or just for wars. Or it could be
it's probably
a 3D. It could be a 3D battleground template or platform. 3D radar battleground platform. You're not buying that one? What? So I'll tell you why that makes sense.
Captivating.
So in 1969, there was 3 patents that I want to mention. The method and apparatus for seeding clouds. Trapped electromagnetic radiation communication systems. Let me read that again, Darren?
Yeah, read that one again on 3/4 speed.
That's like 3D battle mapping. Trapped electromagnetic radiation communication systems.
Trapped what?
Electromagnetic.
What? Trapped electromagnetic
radiation communication systems. The next one is method for producing precipitation from the atmosphere. Artificial ion cloud. That was in 1970. 1970 as well.
That's a camouflage thing.
Control of atmospheric particles. Method for cloud seeding again. 1971. System and method for irradiation of planet surface areas. 1971. Irradiation.
What's that?
Irradiation. Sorry. In 1971 as well, method of increasing the likelihood of precipitation by the artificial induction of seawater vapor into the atmosphere windward of an airlift region. That's a pretty detailed patent. Still in 1971, the next 4 of them. Methods of treating atmospheric conditions, treatment of atmospheric conditions by intermittent dispersing of materials within or therein, weather modification method, that's pretty generic, and combustible compositions for generating aerosols, particulars suitable for cloud modification and weather control, and aerosolization process.
Aerosolization?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a doozy.
Yeah, that's a big one. The 1971 still. So, I mean, I've got a list here that goes up to like 2013, and this is still in 70.
Okay, let's go quick.
Still in 71.
Okay, power through.
Weather modification using microencapsulated material.
Yeah.
Solar temperature inversion device. That's kind of what I'm talking about the controlling the sun's effect on our climate. And then pyrotechnics comprising oxide of silver for weather modification use.
You're going to have to speed this up and post.
I'm done.
Aren't you going through the whole list?
No, I'm just doing sections at a time. I'm going to spread this paint out for you.
Drag it out. Couldn't you just rifle off the whole list in like a minute?
No. Then it loses its effect.
Yes, it would.
And I'll save the 2. I'm going to go over Operation LAC and Operation Do next time.
I think we already did.
No, we didn't. We went over Stormfury and Popeye and...
That's right. I do remember Popeye. Yeah. I got to pick Popeye.
Yeah.
One of my favorite segments. This is the closing.
Thanks for your support, Darren. I got an email from somebody saying, who cares if Darren's not paying attention? You just read the thing as if he's not there. So it's like, yeah, good point.
That's right.
Yeah.
Don't let me get to you.
That's right. He's like, we can't see what Darren's doing.
I enjoy it.
So
I enjoy that segment. It gives me a break.
So I got a synchronicity from, let's see if I can use his name.
Do you want to pick the jingle? I'm going to play the new one.
The researcher believes that this neural synchronicity occurs when the brains of musicians playing together create a neurological meta-network. According to her, the phenomenon can be described as a kind of communal brain.
Nice. This is from Howard/Ned on Twitter. Yeah.
Howard Ned?
Yeah. He says, Dear Darren and Graham, thanks for the show, guys. I think all your other listeners would agree with me when I say how good it is to share this time and space in our crazy reality with you both. It makes this weird journey we're on all that much more fulfilling and entertaining. All your shows are fascinating, even the shows I think, not sure about that one, from the show notes.
From the show notes?
Yeah.
Hey,
so speaking of that,
read the show notes.
yeah. So speaking of, I do put quite a bit of information for people in the show notes so they can tell what's going on in the episode.
He does. The show notes are great. He does like to elaborate on the amount of work that goes into them.
No, I never say how much work.
Okay.
I'm just telling you that it's there for people to look at. There's links for how to support the show as well. Like there's all kinds of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So he says...
one of the best, probably, actually.
In fact...
We have some of the best show notes out there.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Remind me to talk about that later with the artwork as well.
Okay.
So, in fact, they usually turn out to be the best, those episodes he's saying. So I would recommend to anyone who skipped a show because the interviewee didn't look like their bag to go back to it and give it a go. It will be worth it, I guarantee. Anyway, here's my synchro. It's a bit visual, so you have to explain the pictures, which aren't good for radio, he knows. That's good you can see this, Darren. So last week I picked up a book and this old postcard picture fell out. I found it on top of a rubbish bin at work a few years back and hadn't really looked into it. I knew it was old though, so I kept it. And it's this really old picture of this guy standing and looking up at a monument, and there's this like pyramid shape in the background, or this hill. It turns out that the view of the monument to commemorate the Battle of Waterloo, which although I'm interested in history, I know nothing about. So
Napoleon.
spent some time this last weekend trying to figure out.
Isn't that where he lost?
I don't know. Let's
where
figure it out here.
Napoleon met his Waterloo.
So he was trying to figure it out via Google Maps where this thing was and the spot the picture had been taken. Here's a snap from Google Maps I took on my phone last weekend when I was sussing it out. So he's got this little pin there from the Battle of Waterloo. It looks like that's where the picture was taken from. Anyway, I obsessed over it like I tend to all weekend. Texting a patient friend of mine all day about whether the monument hill may have Masonic significance, the height, the radius, etc. Reading the wiki and all that. Then I forgot about it and moved on. Today, 1 week later, I get this in my Twitter feed. While you were away, History Pod, 18th of June, 1815, Napoleon Bonaparte. Ooh.
No.
Happens to be the same last name as our guest today.
It just happens to be.
I didn't know that when I read this, Darren. I've been holding on to this for a couple months.
Yeah, you've been hanging on to this, I bet.
I have.
What's the date of the tweet?
And he was
Go down. What's the date?
Of the email? Let me show you. Let me show you the email. June 18th.
So you waited for the Bonaparte episode.
No, I didn't. Not on purpose.
Oh.
And that's the, he was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo. So.
Are those the pyramids?
No.
Oh.
Apart from bits in front, it looks like the exact same view. So Graham and Darren, was I tuning into the actual battle last weekend, which is why I found the photo, or am I onto something Masonic significance? And this is telling me to do more digging, or just coincidence. Darren, what do you say? How do I rate? I'd be interested to hear RPJ's thoughts too if he was there, because I know he often talks about the strange ways we perceive and read our reality. Thanks, guys. Sorry if it's a bit long-winded and the pictures are bad for radio. I've been a long-time listener and dropped you donations where when I could before, but as of the 3rd anniversary, I signed up for the $3.33 donation. Doesn't seem like much, but again, it's all in the numbers. All the best, Howard.
Oh man, if everyone signed up for a $3.33, Howard, we could quit our jobs.
Yeah, sure. We can do this full time. No, thanks for the donation and the email.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great way to support the show because we do have way more fixed monthly expenses than we thought we ever would. We just thought this would be a simple little process, but we want to do it right, and we are doing it right, and we don't have ads or portals or sponsors or nothing like that.
Nothing like that. We have the occasional bullshit.
Yeah, and then there's a way to submit, also help out with music, like jingles that you heard were usually sent in from listeners, and artwork every week is done by listeners, and Napoleon Doom. Oh, Napoleon, there's another synchronicity. Oh, I guess that wouldn't be a synchronicity. We talk about it all the time.
He runs the art section of Grimerica now that we have more and more people interested in art. Actually interested in another local artist the other day. He's going to start contributing.
And email him at nap@grimerica.com, right?
That's right.
And his website is Lost Bread Comic, and it's in the show notes as well.
Yeah. And he does the comic strip for Grimerica and has a good comic in print. I wonder if you can buy it online from that comic store. I'm sure you can find out on his website. Check it out. As for Howard, I'm going to go ahead and give you a 7.7 and tell you to maybe, I'm going to go with follow the Masonic thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Or maybe it's telling you something deeper. Like if I'm correct and that's the battle that Napoleon was finally defeated for flying a little too close to the sun, maybe there's something in your own personal life that you're getting a little risky with. I'm going to reel it in. Yeah?
You got a deck of tarot cards over there or something, buddy?
No.
Right on.
Wait.
Okay. Reel it in, Howard. That's the message from Darren.
Reel it in. And thanks for your support.
I got the UFO quote still too, buddy.
Darren and Graham are going deep. It's a profound UFO quote of the week.
This is a special one for Jordan Bonaparte. Bonaparte. I speak from 3 years of detailed personal research involving interviews with more than 500 witnesses in selected UFO cases, chiefly in the United States. In my opinion, the UFO problem, far from being the nonsense problem that has been labeled by many scientists, constitutes an area of extraordinary scientific interest. That's from Dr. James McDonald, professor of atmospheric sciences, senior physicist, quoted in UFOs, A Scientific Debate.
There you have it. Good one, buddy.
Thanks.
All right, guys, check out grimerica.ca/support for all the different ways you can support the show. I'm going to this weekend also grimerica.ca/art. We'll feature any art that has been on the show. And eventually, I think that's where we'll make the home base for submission and things too. I'm going to find a way that we can integrate all that, hopefully eventually, and do it all through Grimerica. Big thanks to Nat for doing that. Sign up for monthly, guys. Spam Gram. We need more feedback for next week, so send in some synchros.
GRAHAM at grimerica.com.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can even send in some bullshit. We should mix in some bullshit and see if I can catch it.
No. Fuck. Only true, authentic stories and emails, please.
Okay.
Jesus.
No trolling.
Go out and fake your crop circle, buddy.
That's coming soon, actually. I was actually going to this weekend start looking online for some different patterns. I'm going to do it in the canola field.
You got your creative juices flowing. You're Googling patterns. Oh, my God.
What?
I thought you would design something original.
No, I want something easy.
You got to meditate on it and do the design based on your meditation and then see if...
No. I'm going to do something quick and easy.
Oh, Jesus. You're missing the whole point.
No.
It's like doing mushrooms when you're drunk.
Good analogy. But maybe I'll see what happens. Why don't you find my crop circle for me? But the trick is...
I don't support this endeavor.
the trick then is trying to figure out how to recreate it, right? That's why I'm trying to find something that's easily done with a central axis and a string.
Good luck.
Thank you. Trying to make the paper.
Right on, buddy. Well, you better get
And
it.
then we might need some more support to pay for the crops that I wrecked.
And the bail.
The bail.
Yeah.
Grimerica bail money.
Yeah.
Anyway, congratulations to Nikki. I have been in some correspondence with him talking about who we're going to have on the show. Looks like we're pointing to a interesting blues musician.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. Yeah. That's about it. We'll send out his swag pack next week. So he should get that soon. And then we'll have to have him on for a quick... We'll have him on, what we'll do is we'll have him on for an intro the same time we have him on for the...
Episode.
Yeah.
Right on.
All right, guys. I think that's it. Sign up for the newsletter, grimerica.ca/news. Send your art to nap@grimerica.com. Spam Graham. Enjoy the interview with Napoleon. Check out his podcast.
All right, from all the way across Canada in the
Not
east.
all the way.
It's pretty close. It's actually 4383.
Oh, you should have let me guess.
Kilometers away. I should have let you guess. But yeah, Jordan's got Jonah.
Right. Why was I thinking Montreal? It is
It's
all the way.
yeah,
it is.
just
But
about.
we're not all the way.
No, we're not all the way. So, but Jordan Bonaparte's here, and he's got the Nighttime podcast out of Nova Scotia, kind of talking about some of the same stuff, unexplained and real crime. And he's kind of, he's been sharing this with Atlantic Canada, but realizing that his message is going all over the world. And it's good to have you here, Jordan.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very happy to be joining you both. I've listened to quite a few of your episodes and very impressed with your show. Especially impressed with the variety of topics you cover.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, we've I've been listening to yours as well. So we're going to be, a little bit of patting each other on the back here. But yeah, I really, what struck me right away was your balanced look at stuff. Like you cover some pretty crazy topics, but you're not out there to ridicule anything, and you're not out there to just say what the answer is. Very similar to what I try to do here, like just not have a real strong opinion either way.
Yeah, I kind of the way it's coming across that way because I don't consider myself an expert or like a researcher or any of these things. I consider myself more as a passionate observer. So what I try to do is just tell the story. If there's two sides to whatever the topic is, I'll try to present them both. But I guess I don't value my own opinion enough to even put it on my listeners. I'm pretty much just putting the story out there, and I'm happy to talk on social media and whatnot about it. But but my show is definitely me trying to just put a balanced view of whatever the topic is out there.
Yeah, it's good. It's refreshing.
What's your favorite topic?
Man, I love a good UFO story. Love a good ghost story. Love a good any type of true crime. And I especially love any mystery, whether it's a missing person or an archaeological mystery or whatever it is. I just like something that gives you something to talk about. And that's, these topics, that's really what it is for me. It's just like a launch pad for conversation and for, go online and just dig into these things.
So you're talking about really trying to reach some local people and tell local as in like Atlantic Canada stories. So you sort of set out to do that, and then you realize that there's a lot of people listening from other spots.
Yeah, it's odd because I've been a podcast fanatic for a long time, listening to similar shows as yourself and Astonishing Legends and a show called Mysterious Topics that are looking at the mysteries and paranormal stories from across the world. But I've always looked at those stories locally as well. Nova Scotia and Atlantic Canada has a whole lot of world-renowned events and places, but I've just never really heard them covered on podcasts very often. So my thought was kind of, there was all these great stories locally that I knew and that I was really interested in, just weren't being covered. So I just figured, why not cover them myself? And what I thought would happen is I'd put together a few shows and, people around Nova Scotia or Atlantic Canada would listen, and that'd be the end of it. But pretty much as soon as I started, I was noticing downloads from the States and from England and, Western Canada and countries I've never heard of from parts of the world that I couldn't even point to on a map. And now it's at the point where I would say probably 75-80% of my listeners are in the States.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
think that's pretty standard.
Yeah, I guess they all got iPhones down there with
yeah, they seem to be out in front of it for whatever reason on the podcast front. I think we're around 65 or 60% ourselves, and everyone that I've talked to is noticing pretty much the same.
I think it's just strictly population for the Western world. They've got so much more than all these other
people
countries
than every place else.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it could be that. I think with my show in particular, a lot of the stories that I've covered, people haven't, like that, where they haven't been covered before. It's probably new to a lot of people. So I'm kind of thinking maybe that's what's drawing them in, as I'm covering things, stories or events that maybe they heard of but never heard the whole story. But
how did you hear about all those local stories?
I've lived here my whole life, and I've always been into folklore and ghost stories and all that stuff. I have, like, if you look at my bookshelf now, I have two whole rows on my bookshelf, which are just local books about crazy things that have happened around here. There's a lot of it in Nova Scotia.
And do you guys have a lot of paranormal investigative groups and stuff around there?
Yeah, we have one that's actually very successful and very good. They're known as, people call them PINS. It stands for Paranormal Investigations Nova Scotia. They've been on my show. Yeah, you may have heard them from my show.
That's where it was. Yeah.
Yeah, they interviewed them and did an episode of my show, kind of profiling the group. But what's so special about them is not only are they really into it and with cutting edge equipment and all that stuff, but they're highly organized. They've actually partnered with Parks Canada on a lot of different projects, and they do these public investigations where, I don't know if they sell tickets or how it all works, but I'm sure you pay something and you get to go with them to a lot of the historic sites around Nova Scotia that people who investigate the paranormal would dream of investigating, like 1,000-year-old fortresses or 800-year-old fortresses or whatnot. They're going down in the catacombs beneath them with all their fancy equipment poking around, and they're just so organized and they have it. They just really have it rolling, that things are happening here that I think paranormal groups from around Canada or around the world would be very envious of.
Huh. What's their outlook like? Are they fairly skeptical? Are they pretty balanced?
They seem very balanced. That being said, they're definitely believers. When they were on my show, what they had done was, before they came on my show, what drew me towards them is one of the leaders of the group. His name's Earl Laddie. He's really active on Facebook. He has a group called Haunted Nova Scotia, and he's always putting up these EVP clips, like is it electronic voice phenomenon?
Yeah.
But it's based. He's always putting up these clips from his investigation, saying, listen to what I recorded last night, and he'll talk write a little bit about what he thinks he hears the spirit saying or whatnot. I don't know if you're familiar with a spirit box, but
Frank's box, like?
Yeah, so he uses that all the time, and it's basically what it does is it's going through the AM or FM signal really fast, just going from station to station, at like a millisecond at a time or whatever. And I guess the theory is you record the radio just flying through the AM FM signals. Then when you listen to the playback and slow it down and mess with it, eventually the spirit's voice is going to be brought out. So what he's doing is he's going into these rooms of places that he expects to be haunted, and he'll say something like, "Is anybody in here with me?" And he has the spirit box being recorded. Then he'll listen or mess with the recording of the spirit box's signal after he asks the question, looking for a response from a spirit. But he's always putting these recordings up online, and they were really intriguing to me because I could definitely hear the voices he was talking about. When he came on my show, I asked him to come by my house and bring some of his best recordings. And when this guy showed up, I had never met him before, so I didn't know what I was in store for. And he showed up and he had... It wasn't like he had, a CD or a thumb drive in his pocket. He had a briefcase, and when he opened it up, it was all padded. And in the center of the briefcase was a little this stainless steel hard drive that was all, it wasn't even going to move an inch if that briefcase fell off a building. And he, with his own fancy cable, he hooked up into to my computer, and he barely wanted me to touch the thing. And then when he went through all the files, it was meticulously organized. Like, you could tell these people are dead serious about these recordings. And so he played a bunch of them for me, and they all had a story as to where he was and the history of the building. Like, for example, one of the places he got a lot of the recordings from was it's a restaurant in Halifax where I live called the Five Fishermen. But during the time of the Halifax explosion, where we had a massive explosion in Halifax that killed pretty much everybody, this building at that time was a funeral parlor. So they did a lot of the embalming and all that of the bodies in the basement of it. Again, it's now a restaurant. But that was one of the places he did a lot of investigation. Yeah, but he was in there and asking questions, is anyone in there with me? And he was hearing names of people, and then he was going through the historical record to try to find if somebody with that name had died in Halifax during the explosion. And sure enough, he matched up a few people. So that was pretty cool. And he also had some from the Fortress of Louisbourg, which is also in Nova Scotia. I don't know if it's a French or English fortress. I'm an idiot about history, but it's some fortress from some war long before I was born. But in a room where he recorded some EVP samples, same kind of thing. He asked if anyone was in here, and he got a response. The response said a name, and the historical record showed that somebody with that same name was not only killed in that room, but they believed that they were buried actually in the ground underneath this building. So right pretty much where he was standing. So that was cool. But anyway, these guys, a little skeptical. He seems pretty realistic, pretty reasonable about the whole thing, but he's absolutely into it, dead serious into it.
Yeah, well, it sounds like they're getting some coverage too. I just was trying to Google their shit, and CTV News had a story about it, about the Five Fishermen and Pins doing the investigations. And what was their website again? Or where he puts those EVPs?
Well, the most of it he and Facebook, really what springboarded the whole group was a Facebook group called Haunted Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
He started that, and that group now, it has, I think, about 14,000 members, and most of them are in Nova Scotia. And a lot of the discussion on there is about the paranormal in Nova Scotia, but it's also very pin-centric. Like, him and all the members are kind of like the leaders of whatever that's called, the administrators of the group or whatnot. But he's a great guy. I'm actually going with them this Saturday to a hotel not too far from here to do not a public but a private investigation. It's just him and his team, and he's going to allow me to come along with my recorder and see what we see.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm a layman with the whole paranormal investigation thing, but this will be my first time going along for the ride with them, and I couldn't be more excited.
When's that?
That is this Saturday night.
Ooh,
it's
a couple days.
Yeah, so I think that's 3 more sleeps from now.
Yeah, 3 more sleeps.
I'll be out there trying my CSETI luck.
Yeah.
I'll go out with my CSETI group and see if we can see something.
What is a CSETI group?
That's the using those protocols of CSETI and Stephen Greer to sort of meditate and sort of remote view and try and attract some UFOs, that kind of thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it should be interesting. There's a group forming here, just sort of getting going in Calgary.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, yeah, it's fun to get into. It's just these kind of topics. What's so great about them is there's just so much to talk about, so much to look into, And also, history seems to pop its head up so often. So not only are you researching a cool topic in terms of the paranormal or the unexplained, but you're also going through often back through human history, which is one thing that I'm fascinated with.
Yeah. So I've listened to some of your podcasts, and it was great. You had that UFO account on there with the guy who saw it, and then talking about the news stories about it, and
that was cool.
And you had the other one, which was interesting, the disappearance of Maura something.
Yeah, Maura Murray. That's one of the few stories that aren't Atlantic Canadian necessarily. That was a very wild story. It's a case that I'm obsessed with, but I'm glad you listened to that one, because I'm happy to spread the word about that case with anyone who'll listen.
What was really interesting to me is hearing how obsessed these, not only you, but a lot of other people have been for like decades, like 12, 13 years, about this missing persons case. And it's weird to me because there's like thousands of missing person cases, but everybody's attracted to this one case. And then the two guys you had on there, they're like completely, they came up with like their own, they're admitting that it's their own view or whatever. So they're not sounding dogmatic about it, but the sense was that they both have a different opinion on what happened.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opinions, and I heard you say, Darren, can I run you through it? I'll give you the Cole's notes of it. And the reason that this case, the disappearance of Maura Murray, is so people are such fanatics about it, is I couldn't think of a more pure mystery. There's so many unexplained moments in this story, and it's just any theory you can come up with almost will fit the facts or what people know about the case. But basically, and I may get some of this wrong because I'm going off the top of my head, but basically I think it was about 13 years ago, Maura Murray was a young woman, I think somewhere around 20 years old. She was a student at University of UMass, I hate saying the word. Is it Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Massachusetts. Don't give me smash. Massachusetts.
I'll tell you, I got dragged through the coals because I said that full. I'm not even gonna say it again, but I said the state name. Is it if it's
you
even
did
a
it
state?
Best for sure.
Okay, well that's because of the hole in my soul from my listeners, because I said Massachusetts, whatever it is. I said it on my show.
Oh, there you go.
I can see.
You killed it. The number one feedback I think I got on that episode, well, it was either, very cool story, but a lot of it was like, you got that state wrong. So again, it's Americans listening to me. And as a Canadian, you don't often say that word.
No, they can't even name the provinces from down there, probably.
No.
Or the states.
Yeah. So anyway, Maura Murray was like a 20-year-old student at UMass. She was in nursing. Basically, the days leading up to her disappearance, some weird things happened. For one, I think 2 or 3 days before her disappearance, she borrowed her father's car in the middle of the night, wrecked it, got in a car accident, basically a single vehicle accident at about 2 a.m. So that happened, as well as a day or two before she went missing at work. She was working on campus, and she just had a breakdown in the middle of the night during a shift, and her boss basically had to walk her back to her dorm room. And the only thing really she could say about it, she was so upset, the only thing she could say to her boss to explain what was wrong was she just said, "My sister." So anyway, that's just a weird thing that happened. And then anyway, what ended up happening is, next thing we know, Maura hasn't really been in touch with anybody. Nothing really has been going on. And she, until I think it was a day or two after what I just told you about, she basically got in a single vehicle car accident, I believe a state or two over, near the entrance to a provincial park called the White Mountains. And it was a single vehicle accident. She was driving her car, went off the road or whatever happened, and ended up in a snowbank just in the middle of nowhere in this rural area on the entrance to the White Mountains. And a school bus driver who was driving, he lived just a couple doors down from where her car crashed. He was on his way home from school bus driving and saw her car broken down. So he pulled up behind her and got out of the bus and walked over and said, "Is everything okay?" And she had told him, "I just called the American version of CAA, which is AAA." She said, "I just called AAA. They're sending someone out to help me. It's all good. I'm fine." And this was I think it was in November, so there was a bit of snow on the ground and it was pretty cold. And he said, I just live 2 doors down. You want to come to my house and wait for them to arrive? And she declined, saying, no, I'm all right. Just leave me here. So he's like, all right. And he got back in his bus and drove 2 doors down. But once he left her, he knew something was up because he lived there and he knew there was no cell phone coverage where they were. He was so rural. So he knew she was lying. So he went in the house and right away called the police and reported what had happened. And he was on, I think, with 911 or something. And they even asked him, they're like, can you still see her? Is she still there? And he went on his front step and she was just out of reach. Like, I think he could maybe just see the back of her car, but her car was there. And he was on line with 911. They're like, stay on the line with us until somebody shows up. And at the same time, like as soon as she wiped out her car, it was right in front of somebody's house. They called the police as well about 10 minutes before he showed up with his bus. So he was on his front step looking at her car. He had just seen her maybe 2 minutes prior when the police responded to the initial 911 call from somebody who lived in the house that she spun out in front of. When the police showed up on site, she was nowhere to be found. She wasn't in the car. All they found in the car was a box of wine. You know how you can buy the wine by the box. They found a box of wine in the car. They found a pop bottle outside the car with what appeared to be wine inside of it. And there was a bit of red liquid on the snow around the car, so probably wine as well. And then they found in the tailpipe of the car, stuffed deep in the tailpipe, was a rag, which just seems really weird. But they found no tracks or anything in the snow around the car. And the initial thought was that she was probably drinking and she went and hid in the woods so she wouldn't get in trouble. But now, 12 years later, they had never found her. And what also is odd is when she had disappeared, after a day or so, she didn't turn up. They started, going through her background, trying to figure out what was going on. So they went to her dorm room at UMass. And when they walked in the room, a lot of her stuff, like pictures were off the walls, stuff was in boxes. So they couldn't figure out, what she was planning. They also went through her cell phone records and her phone records and her computer searches. And she was calling hotels or like people who were renting cabins in the area of the White Mountains where she disappeared. She was calling there, seeming to be trying to make reservations for like renting a cabin or something. But she had not told anybody about this, and there was no reason for her to go there. She had also called her employer and her school and lied and said there was a death in her family and she was going to be away a couple days. So people have, for one, no idea why she was even in this area to begin with. And then the other mystery is just what the heck happened to her in that, 2-minute period from when the bus driver had last seen her to when the police had showed up. Because it's, he was standing on his front step watching, so no car that he knew of went by. And there was also, she was wiped out in front of a house where they had called 911 and they reported being around the window, kind of checking it out, looking at her and just seeing her sitting there in the car. So, nobody knows what happened. And you mentioned the 2 guys that were on my show talking about it. Their names are Tim and Lance. How I got in touch with them is they actually have a podcast called the Missing Maura Murray podcast. It's a podcast just dedicated to this case. And I think now they're about 25. Yeah, it is crazy.
Whoa,
but
how many episodes?
They're at about 25 episodes. And every one of them is incredible because it's what I had just told you about the case. That is just, the most bare bones, basic Coles Notes version. The case, there's so much to it. What it is they were planning to do a documentary about the case itself, as well as about the amount of armchair detectives or like internet detectives or whatever that are working on it. They started working on the documentary and decided to do a podcast just kind of talking through them working on this documentary. But the podcast became a huge success. And so now they're still going. And again, I think they're at 24 or 25 episodes that are, a lot of them are an hour and a half long. And it's just, it's pretty captivating stuff if you're into that.
The one thing to get a little weird here, might as well, because we're on Grimerica. But what came to mind for me was all the missing 411 stuff, right? And you being interested in real crimes, I thought, man, I wonder if he's delved into the missing 411. Like she was at a park entrance or whatever, like some state park.
National parks.
And there's been so many disappearances from national parks, and this guy's writing 3 books on it now, stuff like that. And he's getting into some pretty strange, evidence. Like it's not just, they're not cut and dry cases,
Yeah, I listened to a bit of that and I read a bit about it. And it seems like there's, I don't know if I would say conspiracy theory, but it seems like a lot of what he's figuring out is stuff that really just hasn't been reported either.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
So it's, I don't know. When I think of it, like when I first started hearing about that, I was thinking maybe there's motivation for, whoever oversees the parks to not let it out that, all these people are disappearing or, getting killed or abducted or whatever from the parks. Maybe they just don't want to sour the name of the park. But at the same time, it is pretty strange.
I wonder when the movie's coming out. He's doing a movie, I think.
The Missing 411 movie?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah, I wonder.
In 2016.
Some of our listeners were saying, who was it, Darren, that was talking about the Rh negative blood and how it should be, actually it was one of our bloggers,
Justin?
One of our bloggers, how that needs to be one of the next analysis for that, all that data from Missing 411 needs to be cross-correlated with the negative, Rh negative blood type.
To see if they all have it?
To see if it's like a higher percentage. Because
see if they're being milked?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. There's some crazy shit going on with the Rh negative blood. Nick Redfern's book, The Bloodlines of the Gods, was pretty interesting.
And what is the theory with that?
Well, it's kind of like it's the rhesus gene, right? So most of us have blood type that are this positive, which means we have the rhesus. Now I'm probably going to butcher this, but I think the gist of it is we have that rhesus gene in there. But there's a small percentage of us, I think it's 7 or 17 or something, that have Rh negative, which is just that they don't really know where that blood came from. And then there's the different parts like O negative, which is, you can use it to universal donor type blood. And there's a crazy, so there's a really small percentage of rhesus negative, so Rh negative. But if you look at some cultures, like the Basque people, it's up to like 50-60%. And then there's this correlation with the Celtics. And then there's a different sort of personality traits and health traits that are associated with Rh negative. And then apparently a lot of the abductees are Rh negative, and most of the presidents have been Rh negative. And I mean, the thing just goes on and on.
Yeah, interesting.
There's even a weird, what's it called? It's not a disease, but it's a negative virus, I think. Is it a virus even? There's a toxoplasmosis. I don't know if it's technically a virus, but that's this crazy fucking virus that I want to get into one day in the show. I've been reading about it a little bit. But it affects people with negative Rh blood differently as well. So it's there's some pretty crazy shit going on.
Yeah. Well, it sounds it. Freaky stuff.
Parasitic disease.
Yeah, they call it?
Is the toxoplasmosis, is that not the disease, or not the disease, but like the virus or parasite or whatever that comes out of cat?
Yeah.
Cat crap, I guess is the appropriate word. And I guess, I read a bit about that as well, where it's people who are infected with toxoplasmosis are statistically more likely to die in a violent incident or in a risk-taking incident, like a car crash or an extreme sport, like, skydiving accident or something. So there's some signs to point that if you're infected with this parasite, you're more likely to take risk.
There's also a sexuality orientation theory about it as well.
What's that?
That you're prone to switch teams if you're infected with toxo. So what it does to rats is it actually, when it gets in a rat's brain, it pulls some fucking triggers and some wires, and the rat, instead of becoming disgusted by the cat urine, it gets attracted to cat urine.
Really?
Yeah. And then
who doesn't love cat urine?
Well, a rat, because the cat probably would eat the thing.
Yeah. And then it moves on to the cat. And then it changes the personality of the cat. There's some crazy shit. I've been really meaning to.
Yeah, we should get you.
I tried to get a scientist. I emailed
this scientist. Can we can we just fill you up for a couple of months?
Just run wild.
Can you get that at Lawton's in a pill form for just for the weekend?
Yeah, wears off. It dies off. It's like shelf life.
Yeah. And you're just like, what happened?
Yeah, you're like, what the hell happened last week?
You just wake up. It's like a bender.
Yeah.
Yeah. dressed as Super Dave Osborne, just in a bed with three guys.
After jumping off a tower or something. Yeah. So the other thing that came to mind about that disappearance, which is, again, it's like total, there's nothing to it except for just thoughts I had. So is I thought she was quite athletic and also in the army or some sort. I was, you know what I was picturing? I was like, maybe she's just like leaving her life to change identity and enter the special forces or some sort of spy, you know?
It could be. She was actually kicked out of West Point. She was caught stealing from West Point when she was a student there.
Oh.
Yeah, she was stealing something really insignificant. I don't know if it was lip gloss or what, but it was something, really minor from like a souvenir shop kind of thing at the school. Yeah, something really minor. She was also, I think, using a stolen credit card, but not for anything nuts. I think she got about $40 worth of pizzas with a stolen credit card. And that got her booted from West Point, but she was said to have been able to, I think she could drive a tank and like use, big guns and all this stuff. But she was a runner as well. There's a lot of pictures of her running. But there's so many theories about what happened to her. Some people point towards maybe a suicide, and the area where she was found, or where her vehicle was found outside of the White Mountains, was an area that her family had vacationed a lot when she was younger. Some people believe that maybe she was going back to somewhere familiar where she had good memories to end her life, because I only scratched the surface, but there was a lot of things going on in her life at that point that would put someone maybe in a state of trauma. So one theory is suicide. Another theory is that she was fleeing to start a new life, to get away from the stresses that she had and all these things that were going on in her life. One of the theories is that if she ran away, where she went missing was very close to the Quebec border. So some people believe she left, got out of the car, took off into the woods, made her way to the border, and is now living under an assumed identity in Quebec. Someone actually a guy named James Renner just released a book called True Crime Addict, My Obsession with the Maura Murray Case, I believe is what it's called. He's been studying this case and working on this case for years now, and his theory is that she fled to start a new life, and he believes it likely that she is in Quebec right now doing that.
She's a spy. She got kicked out on purpose just to fucking cover her tracks. Stole some lip gloss. She's a runner, so she just ran until she met her handler.
She ran for the border?
Yeah. Ran for the border.
Isn't there a lot of like native folklore around the mountains?
I believe there is, and I believe there is there. In fact, when she went missing, her father, who speaks only in poem, it's very strange. Whenever there's an interview with her dad, the guy is the most eloquent spoken guy, but he had, I don't remember his exact words, but he had said, I think under his breath, but the police had heard him, something about he thought that maybe she came up here to do herself in, like to commit suicide, but he used some words that a native from the area would use, like it was some native term for killing yourself. But he has since said that he doesn't believe that's what happened. He believes she was abducted, and a lot of people believe that's what happened, is that somebody just was in the right place at the right time and basically just snatched her up and took off. And it just maybe happened at a moment where that bus driver, didn't have his eyes on her, and it was just kind of, perfect timing. That's another theory, but who the hell knows what happened?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she was quite pretty, right, and athletic. I mean, that's
she's a beautiful girl.
They need those gorgeous women spies out there. I'm sticking with that theory. Darren, what's your theory?
I think Graham abducted her. It shouldn't make light.
Yeah, don't make light. Yeah.
No.
But it is crazy how so many people are focused on this case when there's like thousands of missing persons cases,
Yeah, it's just this one. What's unique is it's just there's a lot of mysteries. There's the one mystery is what she was even doing there to begin with, and the other mystery being, where the heck is she? Another mystery is what the days leading up to it. There was a lot of weird things that she did that's been unexplained. So there's just so much going on with this case, and then there's so much analysis clips of it, people like this Missing Maura Murray podcast and the documentary that they're making. And there's the book by James Renner, who's a well-known author in this or investigative journalist in the States. So there's a lot of attention on the case. So there's just a community revolving around it. In fact, the fact that we're talking about this, you're probably going to get some emails about people criticizing us for getting some of the facts wrong on this case. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm going to go with suicide. I think she plugged the exhaust because she was mistaken that you don't, people kill themselves by running a hose from their exhaust into their car. So I think she tried that first, just plugged the exhaust and sat in the car, drinking wine, thinking she would die.
And then did she just conveniently?
But then when she seen the cops coming
out in the snow,
booked her into the woods and
covered her tracks. No,
something else happened. There was no tracks.
No
tracks.
Yeah,
there was fresh snowfall. There was like a light dusting on the road and on the side of the road or whatever leading into the woods. They couldn't find anything. They searched the next day. No sign of her. Never found anything she owned. Never found the phone she had with her. She actually turned off the phone, I think, about an hour and a half before the car accident that she vanished from. So they don't know what happened. But where she disappeared was a very dense woods. So
if you get in there, they could just find her bones someday.
Who knows? They've scoured the woods, but it's just like
cold at night there.
I don't think it's not for you folks in Calgary. You probably wouldn't consider it very cold. I don't know. I don't know the climate there well, but I guess probably pretty similar to Quebec because it's not very far from Quebec where she vanished. But this was in November, I believe. So off the top of my head, I'm thinking November. But she was in really good shape. She was a runner. She went to West Point. She should have been able to survive in the woods if she wanted to for a day or two. Yeah,
I guess. I wonder how dense the woods were. Because
Sasquatch could
back home, the woods are dense enough that you could wander off the road and that could be it.
And I'm going to correct myself. I've been saying it was November that she vanished. It was February of 2004.
Right. So cold. That's cold.
In Haverhill, New Hampshire is where she went missing. So it's bizarre story, but
if people have dedicated 25 podcast episodes, then I don't think I can solve it.
I'm willing to bet you can't solve it. No.
Yeah.
But can it be solved? Well, that's what's so weird. It reminds me of some of the other stuff we talk about.
It could just be a random thing. One day they find some bones in the woods identified.
Yeah, but
and then they'll still never know what happened, unless they find her wedged between some rocks.
Yeah.
Or like a notebook or something. But I guess that's long gone. It's
or if they're a bashed skull or something, so that they very apparent foul play.
Another similar case. What attracted me so much to this one is I covered a case not too far from where you are in Victoria, BC, the disappearance of Emma Filipoff. Are you familiar with that case? You ever hear about this?
No,
I don't think so. No.
Okay, this CBC actually did a special on an episode of Fifth Estate on the case. Emma she vanished from Victoria, BC, under very similar circumstances. She basically. I believe her family was from Ontario. She moved to BC to work at a restaurant. She was a chef, I believe, or whatever the female word for chef is, or maybe it is still chef. But she was working in Victoria, BC. Basically, after a series of phone calls to her mother in Ontario, it became apparent that Emma wasn't well, maybe mentally. She was calling her mom, crying in distress, saying, I want to come home, Mom. Buy me a plane ticket. Her mom would get her a plane ticket. The next day she'd call back and say, actually, I'm not going to come right away. I just need a bit more time to take care of things. And it went back and forth like that for, I think, a week or two until her mom realized, something's definitely up with my daughter and I got to, figure this out. And her mother ended up, I think what she did was she looked at the phone number her daughter was calling from and realized that her daughter was staying in a women's shelter, not an apartment with friends as she had told her mom. She was actually in a women's shelter. So her mother really knew something was up. So her mom bought a plane ticket to go to Victoria, BC, basically to just do a check in on her daughter and do whatever needed to be done, bring her home or whatever had to happen. Her mother showed up, I think, 3 hours after she was last seen. Basically, the last known sighting of Emma, she was standing in front of a hotel with no shoes on a busy intersection. And a guy that she had seen a few times at the library, Emma was known to spend a lot of time at the library. A guy that she had met a couple times at the library had seen her, and he He came up to say, is everything okay? And she was obviously in distress. She seemed disoriented and she wasn't making much sense. He offered to help her and she declined. So what he ended up doing was going into a coffee shop near there, calling the police saying, this girl I know, there's something seriously wrong with her. So the police showed up and talked to her, and I think they spent about a half hour talking with her, and they didn't have grounds to arrest her or whatever. So they just left her there without shoes on a busy intersection. And she was never seen again. Again, her mother had just missed her by 3 hours. So the days leading up to it, just like with Maura Murray, a lot of strange things went on with Emma. She was seen on, when the CBC did the special, they aired a lot of the footage. The CCTV video cameras from the stores around the women's shelter that she was living in had filmed her doing strange stuff. Like she went into this one store and she bought like, I think they call them burner phones or whatever, like the cell phone you can just set up or whatever. She had bought one of those cell phones. And then she just kind of stood in the window of the store, like looking out the door, looking out the window. And she just waited a really long time as if she was watching somebody, then finally left the store. Then there's another video of her doing something similar where she bought a prepaid credit card and just kind of hung out in the store really long and then left. Wow. And then there's a video of her in the library doing the same thing, just being really disoriented and left. So they don't know what happened to her, but after her mother was arrived in Victoria, again, 3 hours after she went missing, her mother ended up staying there for 2 or 3 weeks, helping the police, trying to track her down, passing out flyers, looking for her. Her mother also collected all of her belongings, which included a ton of journals that Emma had authored that made it pretty obvious to her mother that Emma was suffering maybe schizophrenia or some type of mental illness. And that was probably what led to her bizarre behavior in the days leading up to it. But actually, when I did the story on my show, it's in my second episode, I had told the story of, just like I told you, the disappearance of her. But then her mother joined me for the second, pretty much about an hour-long interview where her mother told me, everything about the case, talked about the 3 weeks that she was there. Her mother talked about the decision to, after 3 weeks, to leave Victoria, BC, where her daughter was last seen, and return back home to Ontario. So the whole thing was one of the most emotional conversations I've ever had with somebody. I think was my time talking to her mother. Her mother still is very active on Facebook and Twitter. She has a Facebook site all about her daughter's disappearance, where she's trying to get anyone who will listen to hear her tell the story and try to be involved in searching for her.
Wow. Yeah, that's emotional.
Yeah.
Do you find with the true crime stuff that you, like, I'm not really that interested in it. So, cause it almost has this negative,
vibe.
Yeah. Chaotic kind of, like does your view of the world change? Cause like you can look at the world, like if you look at it in the, the sense where true crime's happening all over the place, it can be pretty negative. Or you can look at it and go, well, you know what? We live in a pretty safe area, pretty safe world. Like the chances of something bad happening to you are pretty slim. Yeah,
it's definitely negative, and I try to cover it sparingly. Like my topics, I always want to mix them up. Really, for me, what it's about with the true crime story like that is just the mystery. And I think what I'm trying to do, whether it's covering a missing person or a UFO sighting or a haunting of a building or an archaeological mystery, I think what it is, and I've thought about this a lot, but I think what it is I'm just trying to find something in the world that's still, interesting and curious. Because I feel like now everything is getting so plastic and fake and monotonous and boring. And I'm standing in line waiting to get crappy coffee from a crappy place lit by fluorescent lighting, and everything's made of, fake looking wood. I'm just trying to find something that makes me think, the world isn't such a miserable, boring place. And really, for me, that's what it is. I'm just on the hunt for something that's going to make me feel like I live in a mysterious, dark place.
Yeah, that's well said. And you don't need the truth either. You seem like you're pretty good with just leaving the mystery there and not having to know the answers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm all right with that, because I'm going to leave that to someone much smarter than me to figure this stuff out. And I'll when they figure it out and they write the book on it, I'm going to read the book.
Yeah, and my feeling is there's not even a lot of real straight answers on a lot of this stuff anyways. I don't think.
Do any of them keep you up at night?
Oh my, yeah. There's so much, and stuff will keep me up for days. different reasons. Like the true crime stuff, it keeps me up because I have a young child, and the thought of like a missing child, like when I think of these people's parents and stuff, I couldn't imagine that. Then when I'm thinking of the UFO phenomenon or archaeological mysteries, sometimes I'll be going to bed and I'll be laying there worrying about, something irrelevant that maybe will happen at work the next day or something. And to get my mind off that, I will just think about these topics. And sometimes I'll just lay in bed, just daydreaming, or I guess night dreaming about, what may have happened there, or what the answer could be. So I'm obsessed with this stuff. I just love thinking about it. I almost think of it, these types of topics, for me, it's like I use it as a bit of therapy to get through the monotonous life that this present day forces us to live sometimes. So I use it as a bit of therapy. I use it as a bit of entertainment and a bit of a pastime. If I have a long walk somewhere, rather than just looking at my shoes, I will, just daydream about this stuff. So I'm one of those people where it's like, I have if you just come up to me and you say, what's going on? I'm probably just going to spit out whatever's on my mind at that time. I'm going to be really deep into something. If you just approach me, I have something on my mind that I'm thinking about. Yeah. It's just the way I work.
Are you interested at all in that whole counterculture sort of like, I don't know how to even say it, like zeitgeisty, psychedelic, kind of modern hippie kind of, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, we I don't know, we kind of transverse in and out of that whole thing. And I've been kind of interested since the Zeitgeist movies came out. And do you follow that at all?
I've watched and maybe I'm thinking of something else. Is not the Zeitgeist movies the 9/11 conspiracy kind of thing? Or
that
am I
was
thinking
the
of something
first
different?
one. Yeah, the first one was pretty 9/11. About half or a third of it was.
Okay, that's all I had seen. I don't know a lot about that now. All my psychedelic thoughts, once I got too old to really have fun on the weekends with my friends, that all kind of passed.
Yeah.
But I can't talk about that on air because my mom could be listening to this.
No.
True that. Fair enough. My mom guaranteed will listen.
Is that why you did one on the air? Like, recorded a psychedelic episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's no longer.
For your mom?
Yeah, your mom.
I did. I battled with including some psychedelic stories, and I'm assuming we're talking about the same thing. But I did an episode where I did a collection of stories of bizarre things that happened in Tim Hortons restaurants. So for any of your Canadian listeners, that they know what that is, and I managed to collect a couple bizarre stories from Nova Scotia of crazy things that happened in Tim Hortons restaurants. So I went through the old newspapers and stuff and put it all together. But I was like, I really wanted to include my own because it's like I'm always at Tim Hortons getting coffee, and I've seen so many weird things. And I had one story that a friend and I experienced, and I'm like, I really wanted to include it, but whenever I tried to write it down or whenever I tried to explain it, if I left off the fact that it involved a psychedelic experience, it was hard to get the point across as to how crazy it was. Yeah. But basically, our story was we were in the lineup, and this is like a Friday night. We were in the lineup waiting to get, I don't know if we were getting just like coffee or whatever, but there was a lady in front of us, and she was a heavier set lady, and she had like a big like fleece sweater on, like, those fuzzy fleece things. And I just kind of remember looking at like where the fleece on the back of the sweater kind of met like her neck. And it was just like the jacket or the big sweater thing. It was just kind of dirty, and like just the look of it was just kind of grossing me out looking at it. And my friend was also looking at the same thing because it was just right in front of our face. But as we were both watching it, like this gigantic bumblebee, like the big fat bee, it came out from like inside her sweater and like kind of walked like up her neck and into like her hairline. So we were both just like, oh my God, are you seeing this? And she was just in front of us. She had like her hair like pulled up in a ponytail, and the bee was just like right where the hair met her neck. And it was just like the craziest thing. And we just had to leave the restaurant. But it was, I decided not to include that on my story.
You
but
didn't tell her?
Oh, you should have. Yeah, I was thinking, is that so it was a real bee? It wasn't just a shared hallucination?
No, we both saw that bee. There was just, I'm thinking when she
tell
put
her
on
about the bee?
No.
You didn't blow on it and try and get the stinger in the back of the head?
No. been terrified of bees since I was a little kid. I wanted out of that restaurant, and that's what we did. Yeah, but it's that episode when I did all the Tim Hortons ones. It was there's some strange things that happened at Tim Hortons restaurants around here. I'm sure it's probably the same there if you look into it. We had in Cape Breton, which is an island in Nova Scotia. I'm sure you heard of.
Yeah, my family's from there, or part of my family's from there actually.
Right on. Do you know
heritage? So.
You know what part?
No, not off the top of my head. Okay, if you said fine. It, I would probably remember it. It's a kind of a very cool name, cute name or something. I'll look it up while we're talking. Okay. Here.
Anyway, in Cape Breton, when I was in high school, this thing happened where there was a Tim Hortons restaurant, and it's just kind of like on the main highway. The Tim Hortons restaurant's off the highway, kind of up a hill. So when you're driving on the highway, you can kind of see there's a hill, and then you just see like the red brick wall at the side of a Tim Hortons. When I was in high school, I don't know really how it even started, but somebody believed they saw the face of Christ in the brick. Like the way the kind of the lights hit the brick, it appeared to be the face of Christ. And as the word started to getting around to people, everyone would drive down there to get a look at the brick, and everybody who saw it would agree, like, "Oh my God, there's Jesus's face on these bricks." And it became like, it got to the point where people from all around Atlantic Canada were coming, and it was almost like Woodstock. There was people had lawn chairs and coolers. They brought their barbecues there. They even were diverting traffic because all the streets were blocked. There was people everywhere. And the Tim Hortons, like the company themselves, they were really freaked out because they were worried someone was going to get hurt on the property, because it was just like, it was a circus how wild this was. Every newspaper around was reporting on it and putting the pictures up and all this stuff. But Tim Hortons, they had to find some answer, because where it was so busy and then a major highway was going right through there, it was just a matter of time before somebody got hit by a car or whatever. What they ended up doing was they removed all the lights from the restaurant and kind of replaced them with a different style of light in a different area. So now when the light comes down on the brick, it didn't, reflect in such a way that it looked like the face of Christ. And they did that. They changed the lights in the middle of the night one night, and the next day, he was gone and everybody just left.
Ha! Yeah. There's some pareidolia for you. Is that what it is? Is that the word?
Pareidolia.
Yeah. Pareidolia.
Yeah. But it was quite a time, and just the fact that it happened at the Tim Hortons is pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah, I guarantee you some interesting things have happened at that Tim Hortons there on like 38th Street and 17th.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every night, probably.
True crime, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
True crime.
It's such, Tim, I think in Canada, Tim Hortons is such, it's, the cross section of society. Like, you can go in there and you'll see anybody, every walk of life, they're all just sitting in there chatting about, whatever.
It's funny, and it just kind of happened overnight. Like, there was no Tim Hortons when I was a kid, and then all of a sudden, fucking everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, everywhere now. They're sitting where I'm at in Halifax. There's some spots you can stand at an intersection. You can see 3 different Tim Hortons, just within eyesight. It's, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
but
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, in London, Ontario, there's an intersection that there's one on each corner.
That's hilarious.
Just because the way the traffic's set up, you can't really get to each other, so they just fucking... It's probably the same guy owns them all, I bet.
And he probably makes a fortune.
Yeah, he's getting each commuter. Everyone go in each direction.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't I find Halifax on the map here? I was looking at Cape Breton.
Yeah, Halifax is not on Cape Breton. Halifax
No, but it's on Nova Scotia. It's in Nova Scotia, right?
Yeah, it sure is. It's pretty much right in the middle of Nova Scotia. You'll see Cape Breton's off to the right. Yeah. Right, pretty much in the center is Halifax and Dartmouth.
Yeah, isn't it the capital?
Dartmouth.
It really
it shows Dartmouth there, but it doesn't show Halifax.
And it's funny. Halifax is the bigger city. Halifax is the capital of Nova Scotia.
I'm pretty sure.
It doesn't even show it here. It just shows Dartmouth. That's very strange. Yeah, that's where I was looking, but
I knew a fella from Dartmouth.
Oh yeah,
you're only 5,000 kilometers away, 38 away. Wow.
Yeah, but it's a nice place down here, and we got a lot of bizarre things that happened. But oddly enough, Nova Scotia, given its size, we have 2 world-renowned mysteries. We have Oak Island, which you probably heard of. It's covered.
You should run us through that one. Do you have time?
Oh my God, yeah. There's nothing I'd rather talk about than that. Actually, I'm going out there. I got 3 sets of tickets. They do tours on the island. I have 3 sets of tickets for tours this summer. I'll give you I'll compress 221 years of history in about That's what I'll try to do.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Because we have a listener. I just want to shout out before we forget. A local listener. Do you remember Hardwood? Who is it, Darren?
Brent.
Stout. Yeah, Brent. Yeah, he always wants us to do Oak Island. So here's your Oak Island show.
Here you get it.
Just for
This
you,
is what
Brent.
get. So Brent already knows all about this, but basically Oak Island is as far as people know, pretty much the world's longest running treasure hunt. It's Oak Island's this small island off the coast of Nova Scotia. There's an area where I think there's 200 or 300 small little islands, Oak Island being one of them. Basically, it all started about 221 years ago. It has a paranormal beginning. There was a teenager. He was on a little fishing boat, and he saw some strange lights coming from the island. And this back at this time, again 221 years ago, there was a lot of rum running. Like people, you couldn't, but whatever the word is, you couldn't buy alcohol in stores and stuff. So people were kind of selling, like bootlegging liquor and selling it on their own. And what they were often doing is they were hiding it on these small islands, and then they go out with their boats, grab the liquor or grab whatever and go somewhere else and sell it. So he saw the lights, and his first thought was it was probably someone on there either burying something or hiding something like a cache of alcohol. He saw the lights. He went over to the island, snuck over to where he saw the lights, and he didn't find anything except he found a large tree with what appeared to be kind of like a pulley hanging from, like it was like the wheel from a pulley, kind of like hanging from a branch. And below that, there was just kind of a depression in the soil. So it was obviously like disturbed, but it looked like it was just disturbed a long time ago. And his thought was, I'm going to come back, tomorrow with a few friends, and we're going to dig here and find a bunch of alcohol or a bunch of gold or something. So anyway, the next day he comes back now with 2 or 3 of his friends. They do some digging. They get a couple feet down, and what they found was a layer of flagstones, which are like big flat stones, a whole layer of them. So it was kind of like it made like a flat surface like that. Maybe you would use flagstones for like a walkway or something. So it was just kind of a square of flagstones, and he lifted them up, and they started digging, thinking, whatever we're going to find is right below here. They dug down a little bit further, and then they hit a layer of logs. So it was just logs running parallel with each other, just forming another flat area. So again, now they're thinking we're going to remove these logs and find the treasure. And they dug down, and I think they got another 10 feet further and hit another layer of logs that was almost exactly 10 feet below the prior. At that point, they were literally in over their heads. It was just too big of a hole. They couldn't manage it. So what they decided to do was fill the whole thing in and come back when they had a bit of money to get some equipment. So I think it was about 2 or 3 years later, they had formed a company and got investors solely for the purpose of going back and digging up whatever they believe was below here. They thought for sure it was man-made because it was the layer of flagstones, a layer of logs, 10 feet further, another layer of logs. So they go back now, and 2 or 3 years later with some money and some equipment, and I think they managed to get down about 40 feet at this point, I believe. I'm just going off the top of my head. And as they got down about 40 feet, they were finding every 10 feet a layer of logs. So again, obviously to them appearing to be man-made. And not only were they finding a layer of logs, a lot of times on top of the layer of the logs was either packed clay, and it was a type of clay that wasn't commonly found in this part of Nova Scotia. And in one part, they found a layer of logs, and on top of the logs was a thick layer of packed coconut fiber. And anyone who's visited Nova Scotia would know that coconut trees don't grow down here. So obviously something strange going on. They got, I think they got about 40 feet down before they ran out of money and gave up their search. And pretty much the history after that is they ran out of money and gave up. Somebody else took over, got a little bit further, found more logs every 10 foot, and would eventually run out of money and give up. The island also took a few lives. There was a collapse of a mine at one point that killed a father and 2 of his sons. There was a guy who died in an explosion where he was working down in the mine next to a gas generator that exploded. So there's a couple deaths along the way. Somebody fell into, I think, a 90-foot pit and died. So anyway, 6 people up to this point had died doing this, but really where it stands now is they managed to get down to below 90 feet. And at that point, some really weird stuff happens. At 90 feet depth, again, now finding logs every 10 feet, they found something that people call the 90-foot stone, and it was basically a large rectangle stone with an engraving, with some type of bizarre lettering engraved into the stone. The stone was sitting right on top of the logs at the 90-foot level. That stone has since gone missing. Nobody knows where it is, but there's drawings of what the words on the stone look like, and nobody can really agree on what it says, but the most commonly accepted version is something along the lines of, I think 40 feet below 5 million pounds are buried, or it's something along those lines, a certain amount of buried. And people are thinking maybe that's going to be, a bunch of gold below there. So what happens from there, so they find the stone at the 90 feet level. All these different people over the 221 years are buying shares to do the search, starting companies, running out of money, people dying, until the modern history of it is a guy from the States. His name is Dan Blankenship. He still lives on the island now. He had read about it, the Oak Island treasure hunt, in a Reader's Digest. This was back, I think, in the 50s or 60s. He was fascinated by it, and he's a metal worker by trade. He was living, I think, in Miami, Florida, and he read about it in the Reader's Digest and just fell in love with the mystery and thought, I can solve this. And he, from Miami, had been trying to get in touch with the people who at the time owned and worked on Oak Island, were doing the treasure hunt there. He couldn't reach them, so he decided to get in the car with his lawyer and his son, and they were going to drive from Miami to Nova Scotia, which is quite a drive. And they planned to just show up on Oak Island with a briefcase and buy in. They got there. They met with the people who were doing the search. The people who were doing the search wanted no more partners. Let them do a tour of the island, but said, we're not interested in any help. Thanks, but no thanks kind of thing. So Dan Blankenship, his son David, and their lawyer then turned around and they're driving home. And I think they were maybe around Ontario when they stopped at a hotel to spend the night, and they got a call during the night saying, did you hear what happened at Oak Island? And Dan Blankenship says, no, what happened at Oak Island? And I guess the people he had met with the day prior, the shaft that they were digging actually collapsed and killed them all. So what he ended up doing was the next morning he got back in the car and turned around and went back to Oak Island to try to get in with whoever was going to take over after these people. And what he ended up doing was pretty much buying, controlling shares of the island and the treasure hunt. And as I said, he still lives there. He's a very old man now. I actually have some photos of myself with him on Facebook because I had met him last summer. But he's still living on the island, and he's been searching there his whole life, along with his son. His name is David Blankenship. He lives on the island with his dad as well. I had David Blankenship on my podcast telling me the story of showing up on the island many moons ago to try to strike a deal with the prior owners at that point. But they, at this point now, what's going on is the History Channel is doing the show, The Curse of Oak Island. And it's pretty much investigating a lot of the things that happened during Blankenship's control of the island, but they're just kind of tying up a lot of loose ends of weird little stories and mysteries and theories of what's happening on the island. There's a lot to it that hints to it being man-made, like the layers of logs every 10 feet. There's also a beach that appears to be man-made that also has flood tunnels. Basically what it is the shaft that I explained, people call it the money pit, where they're finding the logs every 10 feet. A big problem with digging there is the thing fills up with seawater so often. So they'll dig down. Once you get down so far, just so much water is rushing in that it's really hard to dig any further. What they were trying to do was control the water rushing in and flooding this money pit where they believe the treasure to be. But what they ended up finding was drainage tunnels all around the island that appeared to be man-made, that from this man-made beach that I mentioned, they found these like rocks stacked in such a way that it would let the water run from the sea through the center of the island into this pit and basically flood it. People believe it was a type of booby trap that was set up there to prevent somebody unauthorized from finding whatever's hidden down there. But to this point, aside from a few bits of metal that were found, about 180 feet below the ground, they haven't found anything, worth any money. But they found enough and saw enough evidence of, human activity that all these people over the last 221 years have been so invested in it that they've, some people lost their lives working on it. So it's quite the mystery.
I wonder, it's like nothing could have gone down that deep that long ago, I don't think, unless it was a different...
Well, there was logs down there.
Yeah, I know, but
90 feet
but
down.
180 feet where you got seawater washing out without like really high-tech machinery.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if it's like from a different climate time, you know what I mean?
Oh, like going way back, maybe.
Going way back.
Something.
Yeah.
Ice agey, right? Like during the Ice Age, if you came up there, I wonder if the sea level wouldn't have been as much of a problem.
Yeah, good point. Interesting to hear that. It's my thought. What could explain it is just a natural sinkhole, but there's having the logs every 10 feet. It would be weird. Like where I lived, where I grew up in Cape Breton, there was an area behind my house that people used to throw like old fridges and stuff there. And it was just like this big pit, and the earth just kind of swallowed up whatever you threw in it. We used to call it the dump because you could throw stuff in it and it was just a sinkhole that would just kind of swallow everything up. But when I think of Oak Island, sometimes I think about that place, but I don't know. It just seems like there's finding the little bits of metal and just some of the other odd things they found, like rocks that seemed out of place, that if you look at it from above, it seems to have intelligent design. So I don't know. I'm a believer that there's something strange going on in Oak Island. I visit often. I was there 3 times last year, and I'm going to go 3 times this year as well.
Wow.
I can't. Yeah.
Does the show do it justice, or?
Yeah, well, the show, so people are going to complain about it because it is like there's a lot of, just like every other show on TV, there's half of the show is like recapping what already happened. Then there's about 25% is, what's about to happen. So you could kind of take a full season of the show and just make an 1.5 hour long documentary. you know what I mean? Like the rest of it's just recap and what's coming next. So people complain about that. But my thought about it is for the last, 218 years, if you wanted to know about Oak Island, you had to like get books and read them. And you saw pictures of it and stuff, but watching the show, like in high definition, you see what they're doing and you get to hear interviews with the main players and stuff. So although I have some criticisms about the production of the show, I'm glad it's on TV and, I love watching it, but it could be a lot worse because I've been into Oak Island since I was a little kid. Like I learned about it and I think in like grade 2 or 3 or something, they told me about it in school. So I've been interested in it since then, read a bunch of books on it. And when I heard there was going to be a TV show coming out, investigated it, I was absolutely pumped because it's getting big exposure and getting to see it firsthand. Like that's very cool.
I think I got it. They buried it when it was the Ice Age. Mm-hmm. And then when it wasn't the Ice Age, the water came up and it's washed it away.
Huh. There you go. Solved.
Stop. Well, I think we got time for another one. I like the stories.
Yeah, well, Oak Island's cool because it's just, people all around. It's around Nova Scotia. People roll their eyes when you're talking about the treasure on Oak Island because everybody's heard it and they're like, that's bullshit. But it's all over the world. People are into it. I'm on, well, for one, I did a few episodes of my show. So I'm getting emails from people from, again, countries I've never heard of that are talking to me about Oak Island. But I'm on a bunch of different like Facebook groups and all this stuff of people who are very, very, very into Oak Island, and they're from all over the world. And they're not on there just talking about the TV show. They're like uploading pictures of old maps that they got through, some random archive or whatever. And these people are analyzing the maps and seeing how it relates to, this here person who traveled from, across the free world in the 1400s or something. They're trying to go through the history to try to find some smoking gun to figure out who actually did all this stuff. So it's there's a lot of people who are very, very into Oak Island.
Well, what's your sense about the future of it? Like what's going to happen? Is somebody going to really make an effort to get to the bottom of it?
If I think at this point for that to happen, it's going to have to be because of popularity of the TV show, because it's going to cost a lot of money to do anything. And there's either going to be somebody who's loaded rich that's going to throw down a lot of their own money that could do it. And if that happens, it'd be great to solve the mystery, but it would kind of suck if we can't see what happens. But if this TV show, if it continues to be as popular as it is, then maybe it's just going to be worth it for the History Channel to put the money up. Because I'm sure they got a lot of money to do that if enough people are watching. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. On the show, there's a lot of different theories and stuff, and they're running a lot of them down and either proving them wrong altogether or proving them unlikely. So if the show does much more than another season or two, then it may get complicated for them to find new stories on the island to cover. But I don't know what's going to happen. I would love for them to solve it conclusively, but again, if after 221 years it hasn't been solved as to what's going on there, I don't know if it's ever going to be.
They got to do a cross promotion with the Gold Mine Alaska guys.
And some ice road truckers.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get the ice road truckers helping out.
Give Dog the Bounty Hunter a shovel.
Oof, I think he went racist.
Oh,
yeah.
Edit that out. Believe it or not, I don't follow the Dog the Bounty Hunter story.
Me neither.
So I think my roots are some of my dad's side. I think they come from Port Hood.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's pretty beautiful in Cape Breton Island, isn't it?
Oh my God, yeah. It's God's country. It's the only problem is there's probably not enough jobs down there for the three of us to go.
Yeah,
it's the economy's just crap, but it's absolutely
we could
beautiful.
Podcast though.
Yeah, I guess that's the secret. That's the industry they need to set up. They need to export podcasting. Well, the only problem is all of our lovely accents don't really translate well to people off the island.
You know what's interesting? This is what's happening right now. I was on Vancouver Island. My sister works for a virtual reality gaming studio, so they're developing some of that new VR stuff, and they're on a little tiny town, Qualicum Beach on Vancouver Island. And that's kind of like some of the new industry in these little places. Like people are like, fuck the city. It's too expensive in Vancouver to even live. So it is actually attracting tech companies out there, right? To get a good internet connection and all that. And then that's where people will go. So it'll be interesting, I think, to see in the next 5 or 10 years when it doesn't really matter where you're fucking living.
Yeah, well, things are going that way. So that would be cool. I would pretty much do anything to move back there if I could. It's just again, you need to bring some money in.
It's the McIsaacs.
Okay, very common name down there.
Yeah,
so the Dunlop clan hails from Port Hood.
Well, McIsaac was on my grandma's side probably. So my grandma's brothers and sisters were probably all from Port Hood.
Troublemakers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But it's a very beautiful place, Cape Breton Island. I hope someday the economy turns around.
I bet they need fishing back, right?
Yeah,
At
fishing
this point,
and
it'd be
mining
fishing and offshore oil rigging.
Yeah, I think we may not be alive to see that place turn around. But aside from Oak Island and the beauty of Cape Breton, we also have the world-renowned, Canada's only government-investigated UFO sighting, the Shag Harbor incident.
Hey, that was one of my
Darren's
favorites.
Actually, I think I emailed him that way back.
Oh, did you?
I think I told him that. So I'm glad you brought it up because I totally forgot.
Yeah, it's very cool story, and it's something that we call it Canada's Roswell because it's so well known. There's so much documentation that the government kept because what ended up happening, the Shag Harbor incident, was initially reported as a possible aircraft crash or an airplane crash. So I guess there's protocol that the government has or whatever when an airplane crashes. So when all the reports came in of an airplane crashing into Shag Harbor, people just went crazy. The government, search and rescue, the police, all this stuff. Everybody was sent out to try to figure out what was going on and rescue the survivors. But when all was said and done, they didn't find an airplane. So it's that's what really makes it what makes it interesting. There's some evidence of a cover up, or as well as some evidence of maybe the government not being completely forward with how deep the investigation was. But basically, the story, the Coles Notes version of the story, and again, Shag Harbor, I could get you names of some people who could give you, a 4-hour lecture on what happened there. But basically the story is this one evening, this all happened in 67. It was October 4th of 67. During that night, all across Nova Scotia, really, there was reports of weird things happening in the sky. There was, and a lot of it was documented. One was an Air Canada pilot actually saw something bizarre. He was just outside of Montreal, saw something bizarre outside of his window that appeared to, as he was flying, that appeared to be a bright light connected to a dark object. Anyway, where it all really gets going is around Nova Scotia. People are seeing the lights in the sky or whatnot. And this one guy, the first guy who reported it, he was driving down a dark road outside or just by Shag Harbor, which is a harbor. He had 4 or 5 friends in the car, and just above the tree line, he could see just a line of lights. I think he described it as 4 lights, and they were kind of at an angle, but they were all parallel with each other, like forming a straight line. And they were just moving kind of almost with the speed of his car just above the tree line. And what he thought it was the lights that would be on the wing of a plane. And he thought it was a plane that was kind of like sideways, like maybe spinning out of control. And he was, they're all like, oh my God, look at that plane above the tree line sort of thing. So he really stepped on the gas to try to keep up with the plane to see what was going on. And he said he couldn't hear it or anything. It's just, you could just see the 4 lights that just kind of had a yellowish tint. And they sometimes appear to be blinking on and off and whatnot. And they just kind of followed them. And as they kind of rounded a corner, they could see the 4 lights come over the tree line, cross the road, and just head into the harbor until the lights descended into the harbor. So they right away thought they witnessed an airplane kind of flying on an angle, crashing into Shag Harbor. So he drove just past the harbor briefly to a payphone, and he called to report what he had saw to, I don't know if he called the police or who he called, but he reported it. And as he was reporting it, there was, I think, three or 4 other people from that area unrelated to him that were reporting it using the same terminology. Like, we just saw an aircraft with 4 lights crashing into Shag Harbor. So when he was on the phone at the payphone with them, he was a fisherman, and he knew he was talking to I think the local police at this point, because he was getting transferred around as he was reporting it. He was telling the local police exactly where he was and exactly where the lights were, and they told him to go back there and wait by the harbor for them to arrive so he could show them where it was. And when him and his little group of friends in the car got to the harbor, Shag Harbor, they could see the lights below the surface. It was well offshore, but they could see, to them, what they thought was an airplane sinking or just under the water. They could see the bright lights and whatnot. So they wait. The police arrive, and they show the police, you see the lights in the harbor there. And by now a crowd's starting to form, and everybody's on the shore watching the light under the water. And it's getting dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. They think it's either sinking or the light is just slowly, maybe it's running out of power or whatever. So as they're all there, what ends up happening is one of the guys who's amongst the crowd that are watching the light, he was a fisherman as well, and he had a boat not far by. So the guy that I mentioned that had phoned, the first responder that had phoned the police from the payphone, he went and got on the boat with the guy, as well as a few other people went out there, and they drove out to where the light was, thinking they were going to be finding, bodies all over the place and scooping people up in their boat, because they were going out there, on adrenaline, basically, to pull bodies out of the water. Search and rescue. Exactly, because they were waiting for the actual search and rescue to arrive, but they're thinking we're going to go out there and maybe save 15 people. So they get out there, and by the time they get out there is just as the light is completely disappearing. But where they get just above the light, at this point they could barely see a light. But what there was a thick. They described it as like, I don't know if you've been near a lot of water in your life, but you find that, I think they call it like sea soap, where it's like just this like foamy, bubbly crap. They said that the whole area above where the light was just this thick yellow foam that had kind of a sulfuric smell to it. They were even like reaching over the side of the boat and just scooping it up. And I guess from time to time, if it's like a bacteria or something that'll get in the water, it'll cause a bit of this like scummy foam. But this was unlike that. They said it was like, a really thick foam, unlike anything they ever saw in that area. And so they're there. They find no people, no pieces of whatever floating around from an airplane, and the actual search and rescue arrives, finding the foam but no bodies. There's divers sent down. They didn't find anything, and at this point, till today, they have no idea what had happened. They hadn't found anything unusual under there. However, there are some stories. Somebody, I think 2 days later, and I think it may be more than one person, I think 2 separate unrelated people say that they witnessed the light leaving the water, like from a different part of the harbor. They saw a series of lights come out of the water and ascend into the sky. So some people think maybe whatever landed down there hung out for a day or two and then took off. Also, there's been some reports of people saying they saw late at night divers pulling debris out of the water, bringing it into vehicles and leaving. So some people have the whole theory that they found evidence of something down there, a UFO or whatnot, and got it out of there before anybody really got a good look at it. So nobody really knows what happened. But what makes Shag Harbor so unique and interesting is it was government documented. So all this stuff is, it's official and it's true. But it's also just there's so many unique eyewitnesses that are unrelated to each other that there's no question that that something bizarre happened.
Yeah, it's one of those cases. It just doesn't get the credit it deserves either. It's sort of like the flaps in the. Oh, now I'm going to lose my train of thought there. The flaps in New York at. What am I thinking?
I don't know. I like the foam, though, is kind of like that weird reaction between the salt water and the shore and slapping and the air gets in there a little bit, I'm sure. I wonder if some sort of weird exhaust couldn't have the same kind of effect. Is there any U.S. naval bases south of there?
Not that I know of. I don't think there's anything. There's not much of anything down there.
Boston is that's almost the closest harbor to Boston from Canada.
Really?
Yeah, it's really kind of, you can see it on the map I got there. Yeah.
Is there military bases around Boston? There must be.
Probably, yeah.
That's a long haul underwater, though.
Yeah. And
it crashed. It flew and crashed before it got there.
Oh, you think it crashed and then they just came and
grabbed it? Yeah.
Got rid of it?
Could be. And I haven't done a lot of research into it, but I know that some people do believe there's some kind of like a UFO is an unidentified flying object, but there's also a USO, unidentified submerged object. And I haven't climbed down that rabbit hole, but I just wonder if there's not something to that.
Yeah, for sure. You should, man. There's a book coming out just recently. Two guys are coming out with some USO books. Yeah. And there's some really good old books as well. There's a ton of cases. I mean, some people say there's more credible USO cases than UFOs even. It's pretty interesting. Hudson Valley was the flap I was thinking of. Like for years, thousands of people saw UFOs and it's still
going into
not
the water?
enough to, no, more of just big, massive. I think there were some big triangles in there and some big craft flying around the valley.
The thing about USOs is it's trickier to fucking fly something around underwater than it is in space.
In the air, you mean?
Or in space.
Yeah. So we had this guy on, Terry Ray. He had the Invasion of the Orange Orbs book, and he had done all this data collection from MUFON. I think it was only MUFON. And I mean, eventually it could even be more. He could get the New Fork stuff as well. But so he had all the MUFON accounts and he put them into a database and he mapped them out on a map. And it's pretty interesting how he figured that there was 3 areas in the ocean.
And one the Great Lakes too, right?
Yeah, I don't remember that. There was one of the Great Lakes too, you think?
I thought there was a Great Lakes connection
where
as well.
A lot of these orb sightings were coming from. And there was multiple, around Catalina Island, and even the way they were moving and the same time at night. And it was pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, well, there's definitely, with the UFO phenomenon, there's definitely something to it. I think there's too much smoke for there not to be a bit of fire, but it's hard to prove it. I found, or hard to investigate it. Like I found any time I covered the UFO phenomenon, it's like you're chasing a ghost. It's so hard to figure out what happened, and even the theories that there are, it's always, it's almost always unprovable. Very rarely is there a credible photo, and you got to everything that relates to it's almost disputed. So it's really hard to trace it down.
My mom's asking, do you know about the book Fair is the Place? What does she mean? What is that supposed to
What does it say?
Does he know about the book Fair is the Place?
Fair is the place?
Oh, the book Fair is the Place.
No, let me...
All right. It's okay. It's probably some Cape Breton thing. Where are you from in Cape Breton?
I am from...
or can you say that on here?
Oh, yeah. I'm from Sydney, the big city.
Oh.
I'm just Googled Fair is the Place. It's a genealogy book. No, I hadn't heard about it, but yeah,
Thanks, Mom.
no. It's yeah, I did find. I don't know anything about it. You can tell her no, I don't. But I'll read about it because it sounds up my alley.
Yeah.
But I'm from Sydney, which is like the biggest city in Cape Breton. But that's not saying much. I think it's a city of 30,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is true, but I did hear it was the teen pregnancy capital of Canada.
Not much to do in Sydney.
I think
No,
Banff
it's
is
not.
the STD capital of Canada. So
Is
we should get those two together.
Oh yeah, and have a real good time. We get them some toxoplasmosis and just see what
fucking-
happens.
Some Banff to Sydney party buses.
You wouldn't want
Yeah.
Sydney overrun by all the Aussies in Banff. That's
Bus
for sure.
loose.
Oh yeah, but Sydney also not only was it the teen pregnancy capital, as far as I know. I don't know if that's true. That's what we always said growing up. Also, I believe it was the cancer capital of Canada. We're home of the most famous thing about Sydney. Probably is we have the tar ponds. You ever heard of this?
No.
Okay, so it was we had the city's basically built on a. Once upon a time, the city just grew around a steel plant. It was back in the day. It was like the steel center of like Canada. It was where all the steel was being made.
Way out there. That's crazy.
Yeah, well, I think it's because the harbor we had, they could ship it off to wherever it needed to go, and we had a lot of mines, so we had a lot of ore or whatever it is. But anyway, back in the day when they did steel working, they didn't really care too much about what they did with their waste, so they just dumped it in this big, like, I guess, lake that was it's pretty much right downtown in Sydney. It was right next to the steel plant. For years and years and years, they just dumped whatever the crap was that was the runoff from the steel working into this area. It became known as the tar ponds because it was just like a black tar lake. Then what happened was modern day comes and they realize it's not good to have a black tar lake downtown, especially when everybody was coming down with odd types of cancer that lived around there. They tried to clean it up. So what they did initially was they built a huge incinerator. It was just a massive building where they could bring this stuff in, burn it, and keep burning it until they get rid of it all. But anyway, what ended up happening, it was so the tar or whatever it was so thick and full of like heavy metals or whatever that if they took, let's say, like a liter of this liquid and they burned it, they came up with almost about exactly as much ash. So they couldn't burn it because as quickly as you burnt it, you were left with just as much ash. So it was like clogging up the machine or whatever. So that didn't work. So they just tore down the incinerator and waited, I guess, another 15 years or so before they came up with another idea. And what they've done now is they encased the entire thing in a rubber membrane. So they basically dug out underneath it and around the sides, and they just have it basically in a huge rubber bag. They encase that in, I think, in concrete, and then they put soil over the whole thing. And now it's just a nice park downtown.
Oh, Jesus. Cancer Park.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. So now there's just people riding their bikes around there, and their kids running off. But
Is that close to the sinkhole? Maybe the sinkhole is backdooring into the tar pits.
Yeah, no, different neck of the woods. But it's the tar ponds. Like when I was, it sounds funny to say the tar ponds, but when I was a teenager, we just, if it was a hot day, you didn't want to go down there because it stank so bad on a hot day.
Right downtown.
Down in my hometown, there's tailing ponds all over the place.
What is that?
It's like just the same idea for mine waste. They look pretty though.
Yeah, like just
I think they have
cool
like
colors.
a purification process. I mean, I wouldn't want to go swimming in there, but I've like driven the perimeter.
Wow. So since we're talking about hometowns and mining waste, so I was driving through Logan Lake, right, the other day.
Is that where you're
when
from?
I lived there for like a year and a half when we moved out from Montreal. And my dad worked at a big mine in Ashcroft. And I haven't seen it in like 25 years, maybe 30 years. No, probably more than that. 35 years. And I was driving by the mine in Ashcroft, and it was like a different world. It was this huge, huge mine sprawling for miles with this huge lake with white, like it just looked like, what the fuck? This is right in the middle of the forest, or like on these. I mean, it was a beautiful drive, but it did seem like there was a lot of waste sitting in this man-made lake right next to a massive mine. Like it was pretty gross.
Yeah, that's a tailings pond.
But part of it was also beautiful as well, like in some ways, because it was It looked like a different world. It looked like it was one of those, like fucking movie out of Star Wars or something like that. A world out of Star Wars.
Like pink water with, neon green fish jumping around in it.
Yeah.
I wonder if you could go fishing in there.
Yeah, pretty gross.
I wouldn't eat anything out of there, but you might catch something cool.
So we all come from little hometowns with fucking crazy
leukemia.
Environmental destruction.
Yeah, well, there's so much of it from back then, and it's like the more time passes, the more people I think realize how dangerous this stuff is. So it becomes the thing of legends. But Halifax, where I'm at now, we don't have any of that. We're a nice clean city.
Yeah, it is nice. I was there a little while ago. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great city. It's a college city, so there's lots of fun stuff to do, and there's so many different road trips you can take from here. So it's a great place to be. That's for sure.
That's where that Close Encounters record came from, Darren.
The one I smashed when I was drunk.
Yeah.
Probably like the soundtrack to the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, you found a record store here or something?
No, it's some weird gothic art store kind of.
Cool.
Yeah, you probably
but probably that's a find. Yeah. I'd love to get that.
Are you related to Napoleon?
Oh, I'd like to think so. My family's it's his family's pretty. It's pretty obvious. Like they have like his history or whatever you call that. They know like who is the current heirs or ancestors or whatever. Like they have it all traced down, and my name is not on the Wikipedia if you go looking through it.
Well, you could edit it. Why don't you just get on as an editor and just keep popping it in there?
That's what I should do. But it's like if you look at younger pictures of him and you look at a picture of me, we have some similar features. And I did at one point in my life, my friends were all playing Risk and the board game, and I had never played it, and I agreed to, and I just like kicked ass, and I also was like got obsessed with it for a while. All I wanted to do was play Risk, and then it just hit me. I'm like, maybe I am related to Napoleon because that's I'm really into this game. So
I remember a Risk phase too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. That was. I quit playing Risk when I quit smoking in my 20s because it was for us that when we played Risk, it was we were just sitting there chain smoking, stressing out, and so when we all stopped smoking, Risk just wasn't as appealing.
I remember then the like how many men you would get would keep going up.
Yeah,
and we'd have like,
oh really?
You'd have to drink every like couple times, so you'd have a joint out one of them, and then another one everyone has to do a shot. By the end of the game, it's just a mess. There's all these little pieces everywhere. It was always pretty fun though.
Yeah,
we should set up a game sometime if you're ever passing through.
Oh my god, I would love to do that.
We
I haven't
could probably play
years.
Online nowadays.
Probably. Yeah, I got a game. I got one in my closet.
Risk,
yeah.
I should bring it to the studio.
I will. Yeah,
I'll destroy it when I'm drinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm assuming I'm related to him. I think there's a bank account somewhere with a bunch of gold. I just need to prove something and get it. Yeah, but no, you never know. It'd be cool. That's for sure.
So you got a great voice and a great storytelling vibe here for your show. I'm glad it's working out for you.
Yeah, it's been great so far. I didn't, I was thinking my best case scenario is I'd have 100 friends who'd listen maybe. And it's none of my friends do listen, but a bunch of other people do.
That's great. So, yeah. Well, it's a good variety of topics as well. And
yeah, I'm mixing it up. I'm kind of thinking of it as like the TV show Unsolved Mysteries. So I'll do like a paranormal story, missing person, some weird, have a psychic on or something. So I'm just kind of trying all different topics. So because really for me, I just don't want it to get boring because it's a lot of, as you both know, it's a lot of work to put a podcast together. And so I need it to be fun for me, and because really that's what I'm doing. It's just kind of an excuse for me to look up cool stuff on the internet and go to the library and take out cool books.
Yeah, and then communicate about it. Yeah,
exactly. Because you find like-minded people, just like connecting with you two. I'd never had been in touch with you had it not been for my podcast, and I know a whole bunch of other people that are interesting. Be it UFO researchers that I met through my podcast, or I talked earlier about the paranormal investigation team that I'm going with this Saturday. All that's just stuff that's just kind of, just because of getting into it with the podcast. So I'm absolutely enjoying it, despite it being a ton of work, and at times it is an absolute pain in the ass. But
yeah, that's great. Yeah, we found that too. We're meeting lots of local friends as well as like just online friends from around the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, definitely cool.
Yeah, well, we'll have to keep in touch and do this
it's
again.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, I'd love to have you on my show. And once next time I have a topic that you'd be interested in, I'll get in touch with you by email, and it would be great to have you on the Nighttime Podcast. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll,
anytime.
And we'll link to all this in the show notes as well. And
check it out.
Yeah,
check it out, people.
Do you got anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up?
No, just I'll invite any of your listeners that are interested in hearing about Atlantic Canada to find me on iTunes or on nighttimepodcast.com. And I thank you both for having me. It was great talking to you. I really enjoy your show. And I also enjoy that it's you're another Canadian production that's covering some really cool stuff. So it's cool that there's at least two of us doing this.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah,
absolutely. Man. Yeah. I look forward to talking to you again.
Definitely.
Jordan, yeah, thanks for coming on. That was a fun one for me. I really like the story ones like that. So
my pleasure. It was
crossed a few off the list. Next time we can get into a few more.
Yeah.
Right. I got plenty.
All right, buddy. Thanks. Have a good day. Have a good night.
Yeah, you as well. Should I stick around or hang up?
Hang up.
All right. Okay. It's great talking to you both, Darren and Graham.
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And that was our chat with Jordan Bonaparte.
Yeah, that was
Bonaparte.
Fun.
Or maybe great. Bonaparte.
He sounds like Greg Carlwood, eh?
A little bit, yeah. I did notice a little bit of Greg Carlwood.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I was listening. He's like the Eastern Canadian Greg Carlwood.
Yeah, they should get together.
Yeah, they should.
No, that was a fun one. I really enjoyed that one. I like those storytelling ones. We crossed a few off the list, a few stories we've been wanting to talk about.
Totally, yeah. Actually, that's a good point.
He was really, really well spoken on it all, too, so I'd love to have him on again down the road and tell a few more stories.
Yeah. Yeah, good Canadian myths and stories.
Yeah, Canadian twist,
Yeah.
Don't have that too much. So yeah, big thanks to Jordan for coming on the show. Check out the show notes. Head on over and have a listen.
He's farther away from us than Athens is to Lisbon.
Means nothing to me.
No, like from coast to coast in Europe, it's closer than us.
We're bigger than Europe?
Way, yeah. Yeah, quite a bit.
Bigger than Jesus?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Check out the show notes for all the links on the ways to help the show. Check out Grimerica.ca/support for all the different monthly options on how you can support the show. A few new subscribers lately. I like to see it. So,
yeah, Instagram as well.
Yeah, you can get everything there from $1 a month, which would be, I guess, the price of about, what can you get for 3 cents nowadays? Anyway, it's about 3 cents a day. For 3 cents a day, you can support the Grimerica show. Right up to $33 a month. So, and if, of course, if you do, oh shit, I still owe somebody a custom subscription. I'll check that out.
Yeah,
so
right.
if you don't see a number, there's some, we play around with some numbers in the subscriptions. If you see a number, or if you want a number you don't see there, just let me know and I'll email you a custom one.
That's cool. And if you forget, just keep reminding us.
That's right, because we tend to forget things. Actually, I shouldn't say we're a two-person operation. We've got a lot of
people helping
outside help, which is another way you can support the show. You can send us episode artwork,
music, jingles,
stories,
experiences.
That too.
Voicemail.
Voicemail. Yeah, we got a voicemail the other day.
Postcards.
I haven't got a postcard in a while yet.
Yeah.
We did get some cookies, some Girl Guide cookies.
Yeah.
They were delicious.
Yeah, they were really good. Actually, they were way better than the Canadian
Girl Guide cookies. Yeah, thanks. And spam.
A teriyaki spam on the desk.
I almost donated the spam.
Donated it?
I actually meant to, but then I forgot.
To who?
When I brought the stuff for the Fort Mac.
Oh,
I was going to bring the spam.
Do that. That's for us.
In case of emergency, eat spam. That's for us. All right, guys. Big thanks to Jordan for coming on the show. Hit up the show notes for all the stuff. Tell your friends about the show. Sign people up for the newsletter. And I think that's it, eh? Anything else?
No, I think that's about it. Yeah, Lots of stuff to do.
Yeah.
I know Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram. All right, guys. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.
Controlled by the government, the kids are the ones suffering. Straight facts, the impacts all around, front back. What they see, they believe. The children, fragile and willing, are easy to take, manipulate, or recreate while we all wait. Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. True crime. From blind to your mind, I'm a rare kind. It's a rare time through a fair rhyme. Compose pictures, eye-opening scriptures on how easy they will get you before Mrs. and Misters. This is what I remember. Now in my mind we were in it. Back in school, all the girls like a bad dude. So dudes do like a bad dude. Dudes do too. Wanting a bad chick too. Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. True crime. Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. True crime. Adrenaline mixed with sex gets average to sick through thick hips and throttle grips sucked in quick. The stuck addicts control the radix for a piece of plastic. I'm like, quit, son. There's more to the addiction. It's to be number one. Imagine the fun. The best of everyone is a life of partying. I'm like Harley, man. You know how much work it takes to be great. Don't be a fake. Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. Huh? Go ahead, let them go. True crime. To get on the mic and hype, they're not right. To use the crowd like sheep, little Bo Peep. You know my fleet, grade A elite knowledge when I speak. To bring continuous heat. Y'all know the rap scene, high as what and drunk on the lean. My rap's like Mr. Clean, so both sides seen. These words save young teens, hopefully the dream. So when you see a whack act trying to rap, forget that. Go ahead, let him go.